Okay, and we're live. The folks who generally sympathize with us, I would say, predominant, which is important and I agree with. Point to the fact of guilty before proven innocent. Guilty in all scenarios, believe all women, no due process. That's kind of the right of center viewpoint of Me Too, which is obviously important. And if I did have to pick one, I'm picking due process um, over exploiting criminals. I am. That's just kind of where that's one of my 51 to 49 things. However, what we don't talk enough about that what Me Too did is kind of normalize calling it, the biggest one obviously is the Harvey Weinstein. Courtney Love is talking about Harvey Weinstein and his crimes, on a red carpet in 2004.
Yeah.
Seth MacFarlane is making those jokes at the Oscars in 2010 or whatever it is.
He had jokes in Family Guy about
right.
boys escaping from Kevin Spacey's basement.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So it's like we shouldn't be so quick to just talk about only due process in the context of Me Too.
I mean, I think I don't think anyone disagrees with like it's something a lot like Black Lives Matter and a lot of these other intersectional movements, in that like the core issue isn't really one that anyone really disagrees with.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? Like
yes.
And that's one of the strengths of the movement. It's like no one really disagrees that like powerful people abuse women.
Absolutely.
And men, right?
Yes.
So,
yes.
Like you can like look at a lot of like if we look at say like college sports scandals, like there's
Sure.
as many of those with like coaches raping dudes as there are girls.
Yeah. You bring up the Ohio State wrestling stuff.
Exactly.
Sure.
Exactly. No one really disagrees with that, but like at some point it moves into the territory, like you said, about no due process, believe all women, and I think that is kind of used as a smokescreen with a few scapegoats.
Yeah.
Because now like no one really talks about it anymore.
I know, that's right.
They got rid of Cosby and they got rid of Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
And like maybe a few other low level people, and no one really talks about it anymore.
And I wonder if
and what started happening is every few weeks we get a new and I don't mean like there's no more Me Too's, because we get a new Me Too like every few weeks.
Yeah, we
right?
seem to. Yeah.
Like we
seem to.
But then there are so many examples where the narrative kind of goes off the rails, like with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard.
Yes,
where
that's right.
It seems like a mutually abusive divorce.
Absolutely, yeah,
like, that's
right.
what it seems like.
Yeah, it does not seem like a Me Too quote unquote scenario.
Yeah, and it got cast like in the Me Too light as him being some sort of vile abuser, and then it came out that she was the abuser, and then it came out that, well, she was the abuser, but he also did this, and this is like, okay, so they're abusing each other.
It was not universally directionally from Depp to Heard. Yeah. It was not, that was not.
And then all the ones on, like, Snapchat, people like Chris D'Elia. If you remember the Chris D'Elia stuff.
I do. I actually don't know. The one I do know, because I'm a little bit in, I don't want to say I'm in that community because I'm not, but I follow that a little. I'm in that comedy scene. I like Rogan. I like Brian. One thing I'm hoping is I like Brian Callen a lot.
He got hit too. Right?
I know, but he seemed to fight back.
He fought back.
And he fought back pretty hard.
So
I'm glad.
What I found, if you're in the Rogan sphere. Right. Which, like, admittedly, I haven't been much since he went to Spotify.
It's a little. It's also kind of lame.
It is lame.
Yeah, it is.
It's become mainstream dude culture.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, I think that's right.
If you're someone who really enjoys dude culture, or you're someone who he has on MIT professors, he has on UFO guys, he has on martial arts guys.
Yep.
If you're really interested in any of those fields that Rogan kind of appeals to, you can find that kind of content in a more focused, in-depth measure if you're willing to look for it.
Right.
So like it's for me it's more of like a catch-all.
Yeah. And I like Rogan. And I like the whole thing. And I don't cast a ton of judgment on people who like it.
And it's a good... I've always thought his program is a good way for people to get off of legacy media.
Yeah,
and
that's
then,
right.
And then you get under Rogan, and he talks to 100 different people from 100 different backgrounds, and that's 100 different potential avenues of content for you to watch.
Yeah,
subjects
that's right.
For you to get into.
Definitely,
right?
Definitely.
And if you're in the Rogan sphere and you know who Brian Callen is, like for anyone who doesn't know, he's a comedian. His father is very well connected, established. I think he's a producer or writer, but he's a big shot in Hollywood. His dad.
Yeah.
No, he's a business.
Was it
person.
Hollywood? Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think so.
Person.
I think he's like
wrong.
a banker. Yeah.
So he's a banker or a business person.
I know he lived overseas and lived in.
That's why Brian Callen likes fucking fancy dinners and foreign shit and all that stuff. But yeah, he lived all over the world. And when Joe would have his podcasts with like Alex Jones and Eddie Bravo and the more conspiratorial people. Brendan Schaub.
Yes.
And they would all get into it. Callen would always be trying to bring him down.
Yes.
He would always be trying to shoot down the
voice of reason.
And when they would talk about like cancel culture and the left being dominant in Hollywood and media and them all being out to get people on the right, he would kind of call bullshit.
Right.
And then, he got because nothing ever happened. Innocent until proven guilty. He got falsely accused of sexual impropriety.
It seems like he was.
He was falsely accused.
Yeah, that's right.
And he fought back.
Yeah.
And he began to make appearances on the programs of the same people that he said had persecution complexes.
Yeah. Well, I think
but I'm not trying to mock him.
Yeah, I'm okay
to
with
say that it's good.
Yeah.
It's bad that he had to learn that way.
That's right.
But it's good in the sense that he realized,
yeah,
like this monoculture that I've tried to align myself with
absolutely
will devour me. And my entire career.
Yeah.
He's like a middle-aged dude. Like he's
probably 50.
50.
Yeah.
Right? Like he has like a whole career and a whole livelihood. And then I'm sure, you take away his fame, he'll probably be okay. Based on like the kind of family money that he allegedly has. You can Google his dad.
Yeah.
Yes, but even still, and I would imagine he's shrewdly invested. He's always talking a big game about how.
Yeah, and I think he has a wife and like
he's married
and he's like a stable. He has kids. He's not. He does not seem like I'm gonna go fuck this all up on drugs, or I'm gonna he's not buying stilly cars. Mm-hmm. That kind of. He seems pretty normal, which is why I like him.
Yeah. So he went on Crowder, and
right?
The Hodge
twins.
Well,
I'm okay with. I am okay with course correction.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. If we're not going to allow people to course correct, it's like, what are we?
And then D'Elia got accused of.
That one seems a little less.
That one seems a little less because I believe he was DMing or Snapchatting with underage kids.
Yeah.
But then I heard another thing because he got investigated or something like that. But then I heard another thing that. It was one of the things where he was DMing them, and then when he found out they were underage, he said, "Never mind," or something like that.
So what I think it was,
I don't know all the info on it.
So
it's not in jail. So and this all was pretty public, so I'm assuming.
Yes. So my understanding is some of that, but the which is actually not obviously. It's tough because you get into weirdness. Yeah. He was messaging, but then there were some confirmations that, I'm, 17, 16.
Yeah.
And he said, never mind. But the problem was, I think he did follow through on 18, 19. Which is again not illegal.
Yeah,
it's also it leaves a bad taste in your mouth because he's probably 40.
Yeah, I think
he's 41 or 42.
I think he's like late 30s, early 40s.
And I think he has a very like all men throughout history. His type is like 18 to 21.
Yeah,
so again, nothing illegal. Probably a little manipulative and predatory. Mm-hmm. Yes, but those aren't crimes. It's also tough to put into a really specific context why that's problematic, a word that I really fucking hate and I'll never use again. Yeah. But why that's an issue, because it really, I get that. I'm creeping into my 30s, right? And I definitely see, at the gym or wherever, when you see kind of that age group, that 17, I can very much identify them as between 18 and 20.
Yeah.
And they still very much look childish. And there are times, and this is another separate cultural piece, but you'll see, I use the gym just because this is the most recent example I can think of this week. There's a handful of I guess they are women, but they are actually girls who are kind of, in that 18, 19, 20, and they're wearing, they're not wearing any clothes. They're wearing a bra and like
tights.
Boy shorts, tights to the gym. and even as, and it may actually even be different for you because you're younger,
Yeah.
and so there's nothing wrong with this. But I even still get like, and also maybe I'm a pussy, but like I'm married, I have kids, and maybe the having kids things parts. But I do see that, and I get a little bit, I get uncomfortable. I'm like,
yeah?
Yes,
Yeah?
You can differ. You really can.
My
I'm
stars
glad
and
that you do.
garters.
I don't. I will never say.
Dan the church lady clutches his pearls.
I will never say that they shouldn't do it.
If you guys knew this guy
I know,
10 years ago like I
it's
did,
crazy,
15
dude.
years ago
I
like
know.
I did, you
It's
wouldn't
truly
understand
wild.
how big the smile on my face is.
How
right
nuts
now.
that is, right?
That's
but I
hilarious.
get that, and it's all a concept of time. It's a result of time.
Yeah.
Now, do you want to know the differences? If that girl's 25, it's way fucking different.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. I mean,
and I always say my workouts are directly proportional. The intensity of my workouts are directly proportional to how many hot 25-year-olds are in the gym with me. If there's a hot 25-year-old girl in the gym with me, I'm having a fucking awesome workout. My testosterone's through the roof. If it's just a bunch of guys and no chicks that I can fucking stag out next to, it's just gonna be not great.
Bro, I'm thinking about plinking blue helmets and fucking kicking down doors in the Capitol. That's what I'm thinking about when I'm working out.
Is it? Is that what you do?
Sometimes.
Is it?
Sometimes, yeah.
But it's just my point is I now am starting to see the age difference. I am not any less of a creep than I ever was. And I'm not any less masculine around women. And this is again I'm culturally authoritarian. I believe in a shit ton of gender roles. And I believe in make eye contact with attractive women, be masculine around them, and give them the perception that you are sexually attracted to them, because that's what women generally respect in most contexts.
Wow, that's an aggressive stance.
I agree with that though. That's what I think. It really is what I think.
Yeah, that's fine. Go just to circling back. Yeah, I don't. If that is what happened with Mr. D'Elia,
but
he was just banging 18 and 19-year-olds, I don't really give a shit. And
I don't either. I don't.
Also, like I don't really think he is. Let's be real. Like the biggest pull for people like that is the notoriety. Like it's not even the money. It's money's
yeah.
great.
That's
not money.
Status.
But
status.
A lot of people have monies. Accountants have money.
Status.
Like young girls in nightclubs and in venues in LA aren't going out and looking to fuck the accountant.
That's exactly right.
Like the head of receiving for a big company.
Status hierarchy.
So. They would have fucked him if he was 20 or 40. I don't think there would have been a difference.
Yeah, that's right.
If he was a famous comedian who had been in movies and TV and he did a killer set and he came off the stage. If he's
totally
25 or 45,
absolutely,
the girl who fucked him is probably still gonna fuck him.
Definitely.
And as long as
not
they're
even
legal age, I don't really see any problem with it. Now the thing is I think this is a good example.
I don't see a problem with it either.
And the only reason I brought all this up is to say that the excesses of Me Too, right?
Yeah.
Along with like a few high-profile takedowns, have sort of kind of like chilled the public from being into it, right? Like that besides people who already have 20 hashtags in their Twitter bio anyway,
right?
And like Rose McGowan,
sure,
it's not like a front page issue anymore. And I think that's a combination of like they got their guys when they got Harvey and they got Bill. The Hollywood got kind of just stopped, and then you had the three.
Well, no, the reason's Trump.
Well, yeah.
I mean, you're missing the biggest piece is you had a convenient cultural. The reason is Trump and Kavanaugh. That's why Me Too. Yeah. The Me Too movement is gone because there's no more Trump and Kavanaugh, which is why, like you said, on the surface, and you phrased it correctly, which is BLM, Me Too. These things have universal appeal
on the surface.
On the surface
level.
That's right.
Based on the slogans and the base.
Absolutely. Yeah. They are 100% then co-opted to use a left to right directionally cudgel. That's what they're used for. Yeah. It's O'Sullivan's Law, right? I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Any movement or institution that is not expressly conservative or traditional will be leveraged by liberals and progressives moving forward. It's just, and the reason for that is because conservatives are actually tolerant of liberal sensibilities
Yeah.
until they get actually kicked out. So then it becomes a numbers game. It's why universities are. It's why every institution is liberal. Because and there's it's why Corona is a left to right phenomena, because I'm tolerant of you wearing a mask, but you are not tolerant of me not wearing a mask. So and because of that, I will give it, from a broad population perspective, conservatives, because we are tolerant generally, will cater to that sensibility until we have no strength and we're overwhelmed by that left-leaning sensibility. Well, and now we're all wearing fucking masks.
Yeah, and that's one of the big weaknesses of modern conservatives.
It's the biggest weakness.
They don't actually, there's that tolerance. They don't actually conserve anything.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes. Over that. Yeah, you see this and get this. Yes. That's probably a malice thing as well. It's like it's tough because there are two parts to that, and this is why Trump was the first one to articulate, like, the counterpunch. He's a counterpuncher. He's the first, and you make arguments about whether he's conservative or not, but to the right generally, he's the first person to the right to have any sort of practical, effective counterpunching strategy. And that's so shocking because the conservatives, as an institution, are tolerant, which is something that's going to make a bunch of liberal heads explode, but it's unequivocally true that conservatives are tolerant and liberals are not.
Yes.
And this is why again, directionally, all of our institutions move towards the left. Always. And why it's so fucking frustrating and now to your point, which again I very much agree with, but you articulate far better than I do, that you kind of have tolerance, explosion.
Yes.
And that's where we are now.
Yes.
We do not have this we do not have this, which is actually a little interesting to me, because conservatives are also fairly high in conscientiousness, which leads to policies and procedures that enact themselves over time, generally on an individual level, but we're fucking awful at it from a macro level.
Yeah, also that very conscientiousness that, like, you're not willing, you're generally uncomfortable with the idea of someone else doing all the work and you getting the credit for it.
Yes.
Right? That involves like a degree of individualism and work ethic, right?
Totally.
And if the other side is low on conscientiousness,
yes,
expecting them to play by the same ethics or fairness is just not realistic.
You're totally right.
If you are uncomfortable,
yes, it's a really good point.
Yeah, if you're uncomfortable with a degree of unfairness in your tactics, you can't expect your opponent to share that.
They don't play by the same rules.
They're not going to play by the same rules.
You're totally right.
And that's that's one thing that I feel is really, I know is really obvious in the moves or lack of moves taken by the right when they do have institutional power.
Yes.
Right? And I don't think Trump is very conservative. I think he is in terms of where the Overton window has shifted.
You're right.
Where the left have pushed the window on what conservative is so far away from actually right wing.
Yeah, right. No,
he's a '90s Democrat.
Yeah, the language that I use is imperfect, but I think
I think
you understand my point.
I think I knew what you were saying, and I think that's how you meant it.
Yeah. Yes.
But if you asked the New York Times or Huffington Post, they would say he's conservative.
Exactly. That's right.
If you ask the people who write all of the articles and control all the discourse, if you ask Twitter or any of the people who banned him, they would say he's conservative.
That's right.
For all it's like you've said, it's operating in reality in like academic terms.
Yeah. Yes.
In reality, he's conservative. In
right.
Academic terms, if you really dissect his policies, I think you can make an argument.
Does he know is he anywhere near Calvin Coolidge or Edmund Burke or Adam Smith?
No.
Fuck no.
No.
Not even close. No. He's not even Reagan. Who's more corporatist than conservative even. So that is a good segue into, and you have a lot more. You have the instincts that I do, although your instincts are a little stronger than mine in some ways, in a lot of ways. But your like research bandwidth is better than mine, which is where I rely on you in this podcast.
Yeah.
So we're in the week of whatever. It'll be February, the last week in January in 2021, right?
Yep.
So we have the GameStop scenario happen on what? Is it Tuesday
to the moon,
or something?
To the moon.
Are you a Barstool guy too or no?
I was for about, let me see. I started early high school and did it to late college. So 6, 7, 8 years ago, almost a decade. And then I stopped. About 5 years ago.
I oscillate big time.
Yeah, I haven't read it at all for years and years and years since I was in my early 20s. And then I started following it again with all this GameStop Wall Street Bet stuff. I have been on Wall Street Bets for
me
years.
Too. Absolutely. Yes.
I don't really do any trading.
I know, I'm not a day trader either.
I used to be a big Reddit guy.
Sure.
Before the site went to total fucking dog shit.
Yeah, it's just now Chi-Com.
It's a fucking
completely
leftist echo chamber hive mind filled with bots and astroturfing and any amount of influence you can imagine. But before I was on there, and after it went to shit, Wall Street Bets was still one of the only decent subreddits. And they always made the best GIFs. They always made the best...
They're the only best,
not the only. Some of the best content on Reddit.
They have a sense of humor.
Yeah,
it's just they're so so this is a problem. They're fucking even the institutions of comedy. They're so humorless. It's unbelievable. I don't want to talk about that specifically now, but like the humorlessness is just run a fucking
nighttime comedy, nighttime funny man say orange man bad.
It's crazy. Oh god, Trump just wrecked comedy, which is kind of great.
Fucking
in a lot of ways.
Jimmy Fallon going on TV and talking about how racist Trump is. Everyone at home. I want you to go online and probably don't Google it. You probably have to go on Bing or DuckDuckGo, but search Jimmy Kimmel Karl Malone.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
And just watch that video.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And that could explain it way better than I could put into words.
Hey, you know what's even crazier too that I'll say? That was funny.
Yeah, I mean it kind of was. It kind of was.
You know
it was bad.
You know what what I didn't do when I saw Jimmy Kimmel doing blackface?
Yeah.
Faint on my couch or
no, I didn't.
I definitely didn't because I was whatever.
And apparently no one on the left did either.
No one did either.
Because the clip is out there. It's got millions of views. And it's there. So, I don't see it unless there's a cancel campaign for Jimmy Kimmel.
Here's another
I'm going to assume that the left is cool with it.
Here's another piece, which is no one wants to talk about, but is also actually quite interesting, is that Al Jolson was one of the foremost sort of civil rights leaders in Hollywood, which is absolutely true.
Yeah.
A guy who put black people in plays who would refuse to work if black people weren't allowed to attend his shows. And it was a good history. You talk about Michael Malice talking about history.
Yeah.
This is not exactly what you were talking about, but this is the real rewriting of history. Al Jolson, obviously, famous for kind of the, what is it? Mammy is the character or something. Anyway, he's famous for...
Hattie McDaniels played Mammy.
That's right. I'm sorry. You're right.
Hattie McDaniels, and they didn't let her go.
Yes, right. So Al Jolson, however, has kind of been,
was he? I don't know who Al Jolson is. Is that a famous blackface actor?
Yes, he's the famous blackface actor.
Okay.
Yes,
he's King Blackface.
He's King Blackface. Yeah. Yes, white guy. However,
I'm imagining Al Jolson in a champion bodybuilder going somewhere. You've got the King Blackface and King Chocolate Body.
That's right. But the thing is, you'll find this. You can. So anyway, what was just said is. Go, Bing or DuckDuckGo, Karl Malone and Jimmy Kimmel. Go Google, because this is, I'm saying the opposite. Yeah. Go Google Al Jolson, and you will find nothing but hit results about what an evil monster Al Jolson was. And the reason was because he kind of invented blackface.
I see.
But blackface on its front was a civil rights measure. I'm not joking about this. That was utilized to sort of lampoon the idea that black people couldn't perform in stage shows. So you had one of the most famous actors in not Broadway, but stage actors in the world putting on a black makeup basically as a protest to say
well, I don't think it was a very effective protest.
Well, at the time, it really was. You're laughing about this, but it's true.
I am. It's a ridiculous.
It's true though.
Concept. So I'm listening. I'm not trying to mock you.
Yeah.
I'm just.
So you talk about sort of media manipulation and how this has been happening forever, up until probably like you said, people were blackface as an institution, I actually don't know when it was, maybe the 80s or something. I don't know. I mean, I don't.
That's what Justin Trudeau is doing. He was just doing an Al Jolson costume.
Well,
he was just doing an Al Jolson costume.
I got to be honest with you. Blackface, and I'm not a black person. Like fucking whatever. Fine.
I couldn't tell.
It's that's right. It's not. Intent and sort of context matters. Is it like stupid? And are there people who do blackface as a racial? Are there Klansmen who do blackface? Like probably. That's probably true.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is, from a historical record, Al Jolson, who is the person who is most closely associated with the racist institution of blackface, was, period, end of story, a civil rights.
Well, that's very interesting.
Leader
I'll have
tough.
to look into that.
You really should. Leader's tough because he wasn't. It wasn't a political.
Yeah.
It's funny because what's the balance between like political and he just had? I mean, he would refuse to work with directors and.
This is like a Hotep Jesus fact.
I'm telling you, man,
like
it's
something
real.
Hotep Jesus would say.
I don't know who that is.
He's a influencer. He's a guy who's been on Rogan and he's been on Michael Malice and a few other shows. And he's big into crypto and alt tech as well, and he's a black guy.
Oh well, I'm big into that stuff too. So
and he's a black guy, and he says outrageous shit like that all the time.
This is the thing. It's not outrageous. These are facts.
That is. I'm not like I'm. It is outrageous.
I'm gonna do the Rogan thing now, and I'm pulling this shit up.
I didn't say I don't believe
this shit is fucking so real.
I didn't say I don't believe.
So I'm on DuckDuckWo, not big.
Yeah.
Jamie, pull that shit up.
Okay.
I don't know why they do. Why is the mammy thing associated? Maybe it's because I'm racist and I think all black people are the same people.
Maybe because you are.
That could be true. I hate this fucking stuff. It's just like it's so stupid.
So I think the character of a mammy is like a slave nurse or like a right. A servant nurse, black lady. Then in Gone with the Wind, their character mammy was the nurse, housekeeper, maid, whatever, played by Hattie McDaniels.
Sure, right. The jazz. Yeah, I think this is it. Is it the jazz singer? This may be the one where he was in blackface. The jazz singer. I think that's right. Soundtrack. This is Wikipedia, which sucks, and it's funny because Wikipedia will probably not. This is not the best place to prove my point.
No,
this is the worst place. The Singing Fool, Warner Bar. The Jolson story, critical observations, corner while wondering on.
All this was to talk about.
I know, I forget. Humor. But this shit is really fucking.
Talk about humor because we're talking about Wall Street bets.
This shit is really. Look at this guy's Wikipedia page. This guy's a fucking hero. All right, Al Jolson is a fucking hero.
I disagree.
He's a fucking hero.
I disagree.
Here is for malaria. Ruby Keller. I mean, he didn't marry a black chick. That's fair. That's right. So how died in the wool could he be? He was a Republican. Oh no. And Calvin Coolidge. This guy, Al Jolson's the fucking man. All right? He supported Calvin Coolidge. Calvin Coolidge is the best president. You would love it. Do you know about Coolidge?
I do. Okay. I am not going to go on record supporting Al Jolson.
Pussy.
As my co-host is here.
Pussy. Jesus.
I haven't done a deep dive on this guy like And without knowing all of the facts, I'm not going to cast any support for the.
I don't want to look this. I should have
blackface. Thank you very much.
Hey man, I'm. These are the things. Again, you're more. You just want to fucking firebomb the Pentagon. I just want to hang out with fucking Al Jolson.
Minecraft.
Yeah, in Minecraft, exactly. You agree? Made at the expense of his life. Yeah, dude, this guy's a fucking war hero too. Al Jolson. Fuck yeah. He fucking, whose health is was. He had malaria.
A lot of people had fucking malaria in the 40s, Dan.
He's got a tomb, dude. Jesus, he's got a fucking tomb.
Yeah, I bet he paid for it with all his blackface money, dude.
Legacy and influence. According to music historians.
I bet in the tomb it has a blackface caricature with little gloves on it.
All these people fucking loved him. Dude,
I bet they did.
Actor and comedian Jerry Lewis. Yeah. No, not those folks. Performing blackface, blah, blah, blah. A metaphor of mutual suffering. Historians have described Jolson's blackface and singing style as metaphors for Jewish and black suffering throughout history.
I see.
For instance, it's described.
Is Wikipedia.
Yeah, I know. I'm telling you, man, this is not controversial. It's not. You're getting fucking. You're blue pilled over on this bullshit over here, big time. You. Fucking terrified of Al Jolson.
Fuck you.
Noting that prayer and jazz became metaphors for Jew and blacks. Playwright Samson Ralphs, whatever, After seeing Jolson perform his stage show, Rubs and Caruso stated that he had an epiphany. My God, this isn't Jag Center. This is, I don't know what that is. Relations with African Americans. All right, this could really fuck me up. So let's be careful.
It could. It could.
Yeah.
Yes, Dan, I imagine relations with African Americans often
Listen. Blackface routines were complemented by his relationships with African Americans and his appreciation and use of African American cultural trends. Jolson first heard jazz, blues, ragtime in the alleys of New Orleans. He enjoyed jazz. So this is like cultural appropriate. This shit is fucking important, dude. This guy loves black culture, loves jazz, loves African influence, uses it as a tool to bring it to white audiences and leverages his fame, which I'm sure at the time was not fucking helpful, but brought this to an audience that would never hear it, who would never hear it from, this is my point. They would never hear it from a black person. So he does blackface as a way to bring this to a new cultural audience. And it sounds fucking nuts, but it's true. And why
couldn't he bring the culture there without doing blackface?
Because in the context of the time, you have no. Okay, I'm trying to think of a good comp here. It's like
I know. All I'm saying.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I get what you just said, and my retort would be,
Well, growing up, Jolson had black.
I understand that they couldn't. That these people wouldn't go to black clubs to listen to this stuff.
Yeah.
And that in the days of segregation, they couldn't take the black artists and have them play in front of these people.
Yeah, that's right.
Nor would these people do that.
Right.
So so he's like, okay, how do I get to bring the black culture to them? I know. I'll dress up as a black person and do the acts.
But do you understand?
Wait.
But do you understand his motivation, though?
I do.
Is that not more important than our 100 years later context?
I don't think so.
I totally disagree.
I
couldn't disagree more then.
I don't think having good intentions always absolves you of what you do.
Right? I agree with that, but I don't agree with that in this context.
So he wants to bring them the black culture, but he wants to do it in a palatable way. And so they decided that the most palatable way, instead of just white people doing it, which they are clearly able to do, because if he's doing blackface and then doing the act, that means he can do the act, right? So he could just do the act, not in the blackface. So,
but do you understand that it wasn't controversial then?
Of course it wasn't controversial then, but it also wasn't controversial to do a lot of bad stuff then.
I know, but okay. So this is actually a decent point. I do want to talk about the Wall Street bet stuff.
Yeah, no, getting off topic here.
I really have a problem with this is tough because, and this is another 4159 thing, right? So we have to accurately and at times harshly judge the past. Mm-hmm. Definitely. That's definitely true.
Yeah.
But we also have to do our best to contextualize and sympathize with the reality of the time. And we also have to understand that the figures of the past do not have our advantage of sitting on their shoulders.
I get it. I'm not trying to apply modern morality, ethics, and tolerance.
And this is really sensibilities
to back then. Like I'm not trying to do that.
Yeah.
And frankly, I don't really care.
I'm glad you're pushing back. This is funnier that you're doing this, so I'm glad you're doing that.
And I don't really care if people do blackface or if Mickey Rooney dresses up like an Asian in that old movie that he was in.
Yes.
Or
the Long Duck Dong.
Or
stuff,
if black people want to dress up as white people. I really don't care. Right. Knock yourself out. Free speech and all that jazz. Yes. You want to make a comedic take, and I recognize.
But you probably shouldn't do it.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
And I agree with that.
That's
recognize
fair. That's fair.
But I recognize that it does seem to be a degree of unfairness in terms of which caricatures are the most offensive.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like it's more offensive if you do it as if you're making fun of an Asian than a white person. It's more offensive if you're doing blackface.
No one cares about an Italian accent.
Exactly.
But I actually don't care.
And I don't care about any accent.
I know, but I also agree that we should care more.
But at the same time, right? Like I don't give a shit what you want to do. If you can get money and you can get writers and you can get you can get a show or a program or you want to make your own shit on the internet and you want to do blackface, go ahead. Yeah. I don't care.
Right.
And if you can find a platform that will host your content, power to you. You're gonna attract a certain audience.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Yes.
Your content and your audience will start to speak for itself.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the free market of ideas at work.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. At the same time, I'm not gonna advocate for the popularization, the man who popularized blackface as like a civil rights dude. I'm not willing to go
okay,
that
fair enough. And we can disagree on it. I am.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a pussy.
All right, I'm not going to do that.
I am because this is
I'm secure enough in my identity as a radical to not be dissuaded by you calling me a pussy.
Right.
So
that's fair. Yes. But this is good. All right. Yeah. That was enjoyable. Yeah. Anyway, Al Jolson, man. Fucking Al Jolson's a fucking hero.
Okay.
Anyway, so the Wall Street bet stuff is interesting. So you're right. Wall Street bets is also
I've been on there for a while.
Yeah. And is it back up? I should look that up.
It went. So I guess it went down. So it went down, and then it went private. Which meant, like, you could only post if you got invited and like verified or something. I don't know. I read it a lot. But I think it's open again. I don't know.
It is open again.
All right.
Yeah, it is. Who knows? I mean,
who knows? There might be restrictions.
Yeah, and open with big time, big time quotes.
Yeah.
Oh, it is funny that the memes are funny.
Yeah. I mean,
so all right. So here's a. So what I was getting at before all that stuff was where you may have more knowledge about topics like this. I was talking about, so it seems that specifically Clinton and Reagan had the most to do policy wise with sort of the corporatizing of our government.
Yeah.
And this is where I'm going to rely on you because I don't know what that means, and I'm not very, actually who's pretty good on this is like Ben.
Yeah.
Is our friend. Does a good job at explaining Sarbanes-Oxley and Dodd-Frank and some of these regulatory measures that were taken. I can't. Yeah. I don't really know what they mean, and I don't really know what the impacts were.
Yeah.
And I don't have a great grasp on 2008 either. I don't know if you do on those things.
I don't have a great. I learned Dodd-Frank in like my Series 63 class or whatever. I don't remember it. In terms of like 2008, I mean, I never even saw The Big Short, the movie that came out. But I imagine if it's a short and people are making comparisons to now in GameStop, my guess would be that they were shorting
the housing market.
The housing market.
That's right, and that's correct.
Yeah.
So there's two.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have much more info.
Here's how I understand it. And we're gonna sound like two dummies, but who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
There's kind of two sides to this. Both, I think.
Oh, I can explain the GameStop stuff. Great. I just don't know much about.
So I do. I want you to do that.
The other thing.
Yeah. I want you to do that because I think it's important. But I do want to. I want to preface. With this part of it. So, 2008, I think, is accurately generally summed up by two sides of an argument. The argument of the left is that because of deregulation. Hedge funds and Wall Street entities were able to manipulate a marketplace that would profit off of the downfall of the housing and large blue chip stock crashes.
Yeah,
that's and the enemy was deregulation. Yeah. Okay, so that's kind of generally broadly the argument.
Yeah,
the right side argument is that there was too much regulation in the housing market that pushed subprime loans into the hands of irresponsible, irresponsible people who did not have any ability to pay loans.
Correct.
And that caused the crash. And had we allowed housing underwriters to discriminate properly, we would not have this influx of shit loans.
That's correct.
across the landscape.
Correct.
My first instinct is, again, like, I generally side with the right. I say, like, hey, when you force, and the other side was not so much that it was not that they were the point is they put shitty loans in shitty people's hands.
Yes.
They said, you poor person, you have to, you have to have this house, and you don't have to put any money down, and this house costs $500,000.
Yeah. So I think,
so those are the two sides.
Yeah. So and that's something I am familiar with. Just not I didn't know the specific stuff going back to Reagan.
Right.
I think that's
the regulation versus deregulation argument.
This is a good example of how the left-right paradigm often doesn't do anything to address class problems. Right.
This is where I need you.
So I think both sides are right about certain things.
Okay.
And both sides are responsible for it getting bungled.
Me too.
Right. So the left's argument is all well and good about a lack of federal regulation led to these kinds of things happening, but when they did exert federal power to fix this, they bailed out the banks.
This is a ding, ding, ding.
So yes. So when Obama had
it's almost
full
like
power of government,
and it's almost like 9/11 happened, and we go to Iraq.
Yeah, and
it's
wait,
what?
And I believe the bailout happened in the first 2 years of his presidency. When did the bailout happen?
So I was in college. I was at Hof. I was in college.
And you graduated in what?
I graduated in 06? I graduated in 07.
07.
So I was in college in the fall of 2007 during the election.
Okay.
The fallout happens. Bear Stearns goes under. I remember specifically because I was in an economics class. Mm-hmm. And in the fall of 2007, Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers go under. Mm-hmm. Obama gets elected. So Trent Paulson, who's the Treasury Secretary, I believe does the first sort of bailout, quote unquote, under Bush in the fall of 2007 to stabilize the housing market, I think, and that's Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers.
Gotcha.
Now, so to answer your question, the first bailout happens under Trent Paulson and
George W. Bush.
And George Bush. Yeah. However, I believe Obama certainly didn't do anything to prevent future bailouts.
Right.
And the corresponding cascade of bailouts, like I know GM got bailed out under Obama, definitely, and there were probably some other. There were some other entities that were bailed out under Obama as well. So there were. So again, to your point, this is a left-right thing.
Right.
Both of them did.
Yeah, it's not Obama being the president isn't the important part.
Exactly. It's kind of inconsequential.
The government doing a bailout, regardless of who president, is a left thing. That's a government interposing in the market and injecting cash into these entities. Yeah. So it doesn't really matter. The argument stands.
Is it Trent Paulson or Hank Paulson?
Henry Paulson.
Hank Paulson.
Hank
Paulson.
Henry Paulson.
Yeah. But I remember that there was a very specific image in my head of him talking.
So they didn't really bail out any of the families who got kicked out on the streets and lost their houses. They just bailed out the banks.
Correct. Yes, they bailed out the banks, and then this is where the weird cascade. It's like, how does Delphi? Well, I know how, but it's like, housing market crashes. Now we need to bail out GM. It's like, what the fuck? And I get it because GM's pension is tied up, and I understand all that.
And and after this, under Obama, we saw things like the Community Reinvestment Act, the stimulus, Recovery Act,
$800 billion.
I think so. Right? Harder restrictions on redlining, harder restrictions on loan underwriting, harder restrictions on a lot of other things, which on paper do a lot of things to protect these communities.
Like, do they?
Not really.
I know.
In my brief stint in banking, it didn't really seem to.
Yeah.
Also, anyone who's going to a retail bank like Bank of America or Santander or any of the Citibank or any of the big retail banks, you're probably not getting a great deal.
Yeah.
Right.
What do you mean by that?
So what I mean by that are ATM fee withdrawals. What I mean by that are higher interest rates on borrowing. What I mean by that is less money through your money markets and your other accounts. If you do go through their mortgage partners, you may be paying a few points more. The retail banks, they get away with things because people go to them.
Because of volume.
Because of volume, right?
Yeah.
Like anyone who's had a Bank of America account and anyone's had a credit union account will see a remarkable difference in fees. By
we bank with credit unions.
Yeah, I use a credit union as well.
Yeah. I also manage about 15 credit unions. But
right, and in my experience, banks at a retail level and at an investment level are more willing to abuse the consumer for lack of a better term, without becoming too eat the rich.
I'm okay. I'm okay with all of that. I really am okay with all of that. This is where
a lot of these
I'm okay with that language.
A lot of these people who like were getting loans that shouldn't have had them, like. I agree. People took out a loan; they should have to pay it back, but they should have never been approved for these loans anyway.
Yes. I totally agree with this.
There's a great point that made if the underwriters were allowed to appropriately discriminate.
Yes.
Yes. I think we.
I mean, there's a classic clash between salesmen and underwriters, and the problem was it seemed like underwriters were hamstrung, and the salesmen took advantage of that. So it's like, were you pressured into it unfairly? Like, yes.
Yeah, I mean,
but that only happened because the underwriters were told by the federal government to say, give these people...
The questions that should have been asked, and maybe they were asked, and maybe they've been answered, is like, why were these loans going through?
Yes,
like,
exactly.
Why were they going through?
Correct.
And it would have been great if we could have got, like, some of these questions answered in courts. Right? Like
yes.
Who, and like I said, maybe they've been answered. Maybe I'm just a moron.
No, I don't think you are.
But
I really don't.
Where were like the congressional hearings to be like, okay, like on this date, your brokerage let in 2,000 applications for subprime mortgages, 85% of which went under, and yada yada yada
yes.
yada.
Yeah.
Like why didn't they have these things like around the clock? And they say, oh, well, there's a lot of different brokerages and a lot of different Okay, bring them all in.
I know.
Like, what do we pay taxes for?
Correct.
And I don't remember that happening. I was still in high school at the time, so I was young.
They were definitely
completely out of it.
This was like because the narrative got hijacked by the corporate and legacy media to say, and here's where this is kind of like psyop stuff that we were talking about. It's not the same thing, but I'm making an analogy. The analogy is that there is definitely some percentage of a high percentage of truth that K Street manipulators are to blame for this phenomena.
Yeah.
However, and the corporate and legacy media created the narrative with the support of a progressive left wing party that the only way to remedy those scenarios were larger government, more regulation.
Yeah.
What they failed to incorporate, and the beauty of that tactic to leverage power is that that's pretty true.
Yeah,
that's gonna pass the mostly true test, but it's not gonna pass the entirely true test. And they did nothing to address what I would call the underlying problem, which is the ability to appropriately underwrite and discriminate.
Yeah, they're factual, not truthful.
They are factual, not truthful. Yeah. Yep, that's a good
okay. Well, that makes sense because I would want to know, why were these people given loans? Is it just because all of these individuals, brokerages and firms were all breaking the rules? Is it because of some sort of legislation that said, hey, the requirements that you usually use, you don't need those anymore?
That's my understanding.
And
it's actually the opposite.
Yeah.
You have to approve these people because you're discriminating against black people and poor people.
Yeah,
you're discriminating against black people and poor people, and that was the Trojan horse that was brought to now.
Because I'm fairly certain that after all the dust settled, these people can still get high interest mortgages they can't afford.
I just bought a house. Well, not just. I bought a house. So
you can still get
absolutely
a high interest mortgage. The only difference now is that the bank is required to spend a small percentage of money in the local area through the Community Reinvestment Act, and there's a few other they can't.
But all that does is artificially raise prices.
Exactly. That's what I was about to say.
It doesn't do anything except that.
Do anything to address the fact that home costs are incredibly inflated.
Absolutely. It does. It causes the inflation.
And
and it forces you to take out bigger loans.
Yeah, and with the amount of hyperinflation we're going through printing funny money and everything else we do, that's why wages have stayed flat.
Absolutely.
It's because the currency has been consistently devalued over the last 20 years.
Yes.
You put that along with asset prices being inflated, there's nothing to back the money.
That's right. No, talking about the kind of cyclical nature.
You can raise wages and it doesn't matter if the money's not worth it.
Absolutely, you can pay.
We're getting into Weimar Germany levels.
I was just gonna say I can be a billionaire in Zimbabwe and still not be able to buy a hamburger.
Exactly.
So you're absolutely right. So here's my and this is again a running theme in my role on this podcast and when we have talks is so I'm so I follow Dave Ramsey. I don't know who that is. He's basically a general like financial advisor. It's basically no debt. It's basically no debt. And invest in long-term non-volatile index funds. Live within your means.
make your coffee at home.
Correct. All that stuff. Like don't have credit cards.
Yep.
All that stuff.
Yep.
So and this goes back to like inoculate yourself, etc. But so we do that, and we again my income we have no debt outside of our house, and the plan is to get rid of that within 8 years, and stuff like that. It's like don't take a 30-year note, take a 15-year note. Put down, don't get into PMI. Put down 25%, not 10%. So again, all of these tools are there for you to abide by, and this goes back to kind of the conservative argument about individual responsibility.
Right.
The problem is, which I understand from the progressive side, and I really do, is that we do have these big corporate lender. We got approved when we did. I don't care. I was making $45,000 a year, and I got approved to buy a house. I got approved for $500,000.
Yeah.
It was like, that's fucking crazy. That's nuts. I could have done that.
Yeah.
That could have happened to us, and we would. And again, like, I've since made more money, and I would have been able to afford that, barely,
but
sort of. But we would have been fucked also, because we would have been house poor as fuck. We would have had no money to do anything else. That would have forced me to take a loan on. It would have forced me to take a loan on. This is like debt.
Forced you into debt slavery.
Yes, exactly.
Forced you into debt slavery.
Correct.
And then you're 2 missed paychecks away from losing your house.
Exactly.
Like 40-something% of Americans.
Exactly. 40-something% of Americans, even with families, can't come up with $1,000.
Neo-feudalism. Man.
Yes. So I really, and again, the older I get, and this is where I change. And even though, again, this is a 41-59 thing. I'm 51 on the side of, at the end of the fucking day, you're a goddamn grown-up, and you got to read the contract. You got to not go buy your coffee. You got to not buy a new car. You buy an old car. You be a fucking grown-up. However, I definitely really understand that spiral, and especially if you grow up and your parents are fucking idiots, or you don't have any, or you're bumping in and out of foster care and no one taught you any of this shit.
You have a kid at 19.
You have a kid at 19 because that happens to people. So I really understand, fuck man, it is predatory what these institutions do. And they should have someone tell them, stop them to do it. But once I get there, I'm like, fuck. But when we do that, then we just leverage more of these bigger, badder institutions to fuck everyone even more. So I'm like, and I don't want to be black-pilled and say that there's no, which is why I go back to like, hey, follow Dan Ramsey, follow Jordan Peterson, exercise, don't live above your means, get married because that helps you become financially stable, have kids because it forces you to prioritize appropriately. But then I go outside and I'm like, fuck, we do have like these payday loan folks, and they are fuckheads.
Yeah, and
and I'm like, what the fuck should we do about this?
So, I think there are examples of ways the government could assist in this in a more material way. Look at the VA home loan.
Okay. Right?
You're not paying a 20% down payment if you're a veteran.
Right.
There are material ways that they can affect that. That doesn't involve saying you are now required to approve people for loans they can't afford.
Yeah, you're right. Right.
And just to be a little more like, I don't know, less practical.
Yeah.
There should be a way for the government to subsidize stable home ownership in families.
There should be a way.
And this is something I think you'll like in your cultural conservative sphere. Like, why is the government not saying you getting married and having kids and having an affordable place to live is a good thing?
I know. I agree.
Right?
Yes.
And like,
I totally agree.
It depends on like, there's a lot of, like I said, this little less practical, little more esoteric. Like, why don't they want that? And then you look at you look at things.
Well, I kind of know why, but
I mean, we both kind of know why. But to kind of to unpack this a little bit.
Yeah.
You look at organizations like Black Lives Matter. You look at various different groups that are sort of on the LBGT spectrum.
This is a really good episode, by the way.
Cool.
I like this is really good.
Like they want to deconstruct the nuclear family.
Yep.
When you look at things on the so you look at things on the intersectional and the environmental spectrum.
Yeah.
They're saying that individual homeownership is bad. Because it's bad for the planet.
Yes.
That we all get in the pod. Everyone, you go live in a mega government subsidized apartment building.
Yep.
Right. The nuclear family is bad. It's remnants of
you don't own your children.
Western civilization, white supremacy. You don't own them. The state owns them.
Correct.
It's like the state. It by all accounts, when you look at how they regulate education and culture, like they want ownership of your children.
They
right?
They really do.
Really do.
Yes.
They give them social security numbers at birth.
I know.
Before they have a name, they have the social security number.
Oh boy.
Right?
Oh god.
And they try and all of the organizations
all
the organizations that receive like government intelligence agency money, Facebook, Google, all these other lobbying groups that get federal grants, the scientific research bodies that are getting grants, like are all pushing this like fucking free-flowing gender. You don't need a family.
That's right.
You don't need this.
Yeah, you're
the
totally
state
right.
will be there. Your fucking tribe will be there.
It's Brave New World.
It's Brave New World.
Yeah. Isn't literature so fucking great
that
they
that point, like
hit on this
at
stuff?
that point, if they can get predominantly young people and they can get the controllers of culture, like these older millennial Gen Xers in these big positions who are part of a multinational elite class,
right?
To buy into this idea of like the plebs don't need individual home ownership. In fact, it's bad.
Yes.
Which gets pushed by people who live on, multi-kilometer estates.
It's Demos Helsinki post-ownership.
Yeah. Then why do they need to worry about like providing stable economic systems that lead to affordable home ownership?
Absolutely.
Like they don't need to do that. If
there's no such thing as home ownership.
Yeah.
There's no such thing.
You pay property taxes for the land that you already bought,
right.
And the house you already built, from the bank that you already paid the loan back to. You still pay the government every year.
Right.
Bring back the Homestead Act.
I
don't give a shit about the endangered turtles. Bring back the Homestead Act.
So tell me more. So this is where you're probably stronger than me. What's that? Sounds like I like it, but I don't.
You're gonna love it. And a lot of people are gonna hate it.
Okay.
My girlfriend's an environmentalist. She hates it. She thinks it's one of the worst ideas I've ever had. And a lot of you who are smarter than me probably will too.
But
I think it's great.
The
Homestead Act was when the government basically said.
I'm also pretty green, by the way.
I'm pretty sure. I haven't read it in a while. It essentially said if you go far enough west and stake a claim, it's yours.
And you can just dump whatever fucking
do
bullshit
whatever
you want.
You want with it.
So
like,
cut the heads off.
And I really like the fact that America has the most conservation in national park lands.
Me too.
I like that.
I earnestly like that.
Rid of that.
I earnestly like. I'm very Teddy Roosevelt in a lot of ways.
But like, if you go into the woods,
right,
and you're not dumping toxic wastes, and you're not building a missile factory,
right,
and you're not a fugitive, and you build yourself a camp, and you dig a well, and you construct a cabin. If it's not on someone else's land that they've already purchased, you should be able to stay.
Oh, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, you should be able to
completely.
Stay. If you're not building it on top of some sort of endangered bullshit, and you're not, contaminating a water aquifer.
Massachusetts is awful for this.
There should be measures in place to where if you're somewhere where you see someone, you don't see anyone for a month, and then like a ranger stumbles upon you, they can just like kick you out. Right. And like I said, this seems really dumb.
Right.
And I'm sure I haven't thought this out all the way. This is kind of my reactionary knee-jerk way to say the government shouldn't be allowed to tell you where you can live if you can finance it and support it on your own.
I don't think that's crazy at all.
No, and I think that we should this kind of goes into what we're saying about building communities and getting back to skilled trades and resourcefulness. Right now, if a lot of these crazy in air quotes, I don't think they're crazy. The establishment says they're crazy.
Yeah.
Who want to create these sort of agrarian,
I don't think they're crazy,
even a little bit, or anarcho-commies.
Yep.
If you were to actually do this, the government's not going to let you.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to kill you.
Right.
Or they're gonna bulldoze your building.
They're gonna Ruby Ridge you.
They're gonna Ruby Ridge you.
Yep.
That's the best example.
It is the best example.
Because people can say Waco, but
no, it's Ruby Ridge.
It's Ruby Ridge. Waco, they were probably fucking kids.
Yes.
It doesn't matter.
Ruby Ridge was a guy, and this is where I go back.
Yeah.
This is the hate. They they used the white supremacist label as a justification to murder a man and his family who are living on their own self-sufficiently. They were spying on him and had armed stormtroopers on his land surveilling him. His
Did
son,
he own the land?
Yes, absolutely, completely free and clear.
Well, I just want to know in relation to what I'm saying about literally going into the woods with the backpack.
I hear. I agree with you.
Staking a claim.
Manifest destiny, man. Fuck yeah. There's absolutely public land is public fucking land.
Exactly.
And if it's mine and I own it, I don't think this is crazy at all. But the Ruby Ridge thing is fascinating to me, and it's the most real life chilling. It's the scariest ghost story I've ever heard, and it's not even close.
Yes.
So what happened
if you try to make these self-sufficient communities, the government will stop you.
Yes.
Usually with bullets.
They'll kill you, and they did it with this guy. So what? Do you know that story?
Loosely.
It's worth retelling because this will happen in the next 4 years.
Yes.
Definitely.
These communities
universally.
are going to happen.
This will happen. So a man originally from Kentucky, I want to say, basically gets out of the short story is man basically gets out of the army, becomes disillusioned with society, is not a weak person.
Right.
He has skills.
Yes.
He's martially competent. He's a religious person, and he has a wife and children. He purchases a plot, whatever it is, 40 acres, 50 acres, 100 acres in the mountains of Idaho, to have a homestead and to leave an elite. He basically says society is not for me. It's causing mental health issues for myself and my family. We're going to separate ourselves. We're not telling you what to do. Right. We are just going to take our destiny in our own hands. He arrives in the hills of Idaho, lives there for about 2 years. Because it is so remote, the next closest place, a congregation of people, is inhabited by some legitimately are white separatists.
Yes.
And there are differences. Yeah. And this is where speech fucking matters. Yes. All you fucking losers out there who are going to go nuts about having adult conversations about this. These are these are non-violent white separatists.
Yes.
Who are they racist? Yes. Do I think they are completely and incredibly ignorant, and would I spend time with them? Absolutely not. However, they did something similar and created a community where that reflect their values.
Yes.
Would I go there and visit? No.
Yeah. Would I give them my money to support their economy?
Never. No. But their right to exist is not arguable.
No.
So he also is not a white. He basically goes and he goes to a party because they're religious, and he goes to a church service, decides that it's really not for him actually, and they kind of disassociate non-violently. Basically says this actually really isn't for me. And here's the double side is even if he did say it's funny because they weren't racist. They showed up, didn't like it.
Yeah.
What's happening is at that time, the FBI, I think this was in the 90s when white separatists and white movements are the real big boogeyman, and there's probably there were some violent interactions, so there's probably some justification of this. However, that's the most credit I'll give them. That's the credit to the federal government stops at this part of the story.
Right.
So the man, and I forget his name. I should remember his name. What happens is they're being surveilled. This is a new person who comes and shows up with his family. As they're leaving, he is stopped by the FBI, and basically they say, "What the heck? Like, who are you?" They give him the runaround. They detain him, and they basically they arrest him. They find a weapon in his car that's registered to him completely, but that's enough probable cause because he's associating with known racists and he's armed that they detain him and they arrest him for like a week and basically question him.
Yeah. They jammed him up.
So they and they take his gun.
Yeah, they jammed him up.
So he basically says what, and he resists.
Yeah,
he says
of course
he says fuck you. You know, this is ridiculous. Get away from me. He resists. So now that's enough proof for the federal government to say he's a problem, he's violent, etc. That allows them a warrant to spy on him. So he gets out of jail after a week. He goes back to his homestead. He's living his life on the ranch, but he's obviously he's not paranoid if they're spying on you.
Yeah.
He recognizes this. So they live for about a month, but he's being surveilled. One day at the end of the month, that he sees men with weapons in like a tree stand that he stumbles upon with his son because he's out hunting.
Yeah.
And is like, oh fuck,
yeah.
They're really out to get, like, they're really gonna come and get me. He goes back to his compound and basically becomes paranoid and shuts himself up for the next. So then that further heightens and escalates the presence because the FBI says, fuck, he's he's not even coming out anymore. He must be building the bomb. He must be communicating and creating a resistance.
Definitely not because we've been harassing this guy for months.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with that. He's doing this completely organically because he's a crazy person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So again, a few more months go by, and basically he's appropriately put his family on red alert. He has a wife, a daughter, and a son, and his son is probably 15 or something. So his son is on high alert, armed at all times. Yeah. Now they see they're armed at all times. Blah blah blah. All this stuff. They continue to constrict the surveillance area. And one day, when his son is hunting in the woods, his son sees an armed man. They basically they basically cross paths. Yeah. It's like, and the son shoots and kills, obviously, this fucking armed home invader, land invader.
Yeah.
And then the son gets in a shootout with agents, and the son is shot and killed.
Okay.
The father eventually, the son doesn't come home or whatever, goes out to, search for his son. He doesn't know where his son is. As he starts to leave, he gets in a shootout.
Yep.
They don't manage he manages, I think, to kill another agent.
Fed boy.
Yep. And he runs back in his house, and then they get in a standoff for the next week and a half, basically. He doesn't know if his son's dead. He assumes his son is dead correctly. And eventually it comes to a head when a sniper shoots his wife through the head while they're in his cabin. A sniper she's in front of a window or something. Yeah, yeah. They can't tell if it's a man or a woman. No, he doesn't know if it's blah blah blah. This whole thing, I don't know, and it's hostages, and we don't know. Yeah. They shoot her in the fucking head. Yeah. And eventually, after another 2 weeks, the guy eventually surrenders because he basically runs out of food, and his daughter's still in there.
Yeah.
And the body of his wife is in there. It's still in there. Yeah. And they used hate speech and racism as a cudgel to ruin this man's life.
And that's it doesn't matter. I don't care if these guys who the party he went to were
absolutely
doesn't
matter.
Deal neo-Nazi. I can go to a party with Latin Kings later today and leave, and unless you can prove I am doing a crime.
Yep.
Go through my phone.
Absolutely.
I didn't do anything. And you shouldn't even be allowed to do that. But yes, you are.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be allowed to do it, but based on the
it's
fucking
the wildest. Ruby Ridge, man. It is the most clear example, and it will happen.
It will happen again.
It will happen again.
That stuff will happen again. It'll keep happening. Homestead Act.
It's Homestead
Act.
And go and live. And again, this guy legitimately tried to go he did everything right. He's not. I feel bad for not remembering his name. I should go commit his name to memory because he's alive today. He did get it. Small fucking peanuts. He got $1 million settlement or something, but his fucking wife was shot in the head. Right. His son was killed. His son's a fucking hero. Defending his land. He's a hero. It's a harrowing. There's actually, it's funny. It's I'm shocked that PBS actually did it, but there's a pretty good documentary on it on PBS. But they also whitewashed.
There's a Netflix thing.
They whitewashed it too. They totally were. Oh, he was associating with
the Netflix Jeffrey Epstein story makes it seem like he was this lone billionaire that just had all these connections and that he ran this ring all by himself. Yeah, he was connected to all these people, but it was kind of just no big deal. Epstein. He's dead now. Don't worry about it.
Right. It's just for all the people out there who don't think. No, the homestead stuff is. No, I totally agree with that. Here's where Massachusetts is so shitty on this, just in general as well. In particular, you basically can't camp. Not even set up a house. You can't camp anywhere.
No.
That's not a owned and operated campsite.
Yeah, that you have to pay money to.
Yeah. You can't go find a state. You can't camp in state forests in Massachusetts. I mean, it's why. I mean, this is either public land or it's not.
Yeah,
I mean, what is this?
Yeah, I think I was reading that Japan has like a really robust public camp system.
Is that true? Yeah.
And you are allowed to camp.
Yeah.
And if you go into the public places, you're allowed, and they have like lodges and stuff where there are like medics. Rangers and it's like the ranger station / like a hostel.
There are states that are pretty good about this too. I mean, if you go, there are the Montanas of the world and the the Idahos of the world, the Wyomings. That's kind of it's still manifest destiny out there. Now, I mean, I don't know about setting up it. I mean, about setting up and owning, I totally agree with you. It's like if you go out and you establish a life for yourself.
Yeah. And I would be amenable to property taxes if we didn't have income tax. And we didn't have all these other taxes
This is a great point, yes.
Absolutely. Relatively modern
property tax makes plenty of sense.
Because if you're looking
income tax makes no sense.
If you're looking at property tax in any governmental system, right? Like go back to... even back to warlords and tribes and kings and monarchs and stuff. Yeah. You live on their land.
Yes.
And they have the standing army.
Absolutely.
That
they protect you.
stops the other people from coming in and fucking you up.
Correct.
So you pay them money to live on the land.
That
makes sense.
Absolutely. You're buying a service.
Yeah. But on top of that, to also say
anything you earn,
I get a piece of that.
Yes.
And
that's
anything that say you're earning money through your own business, anything that you pay people, I want a piece of that as well.
Isn't it?
And a piece of their income.
And when you die, you can't give it to their kids.
Yeah, and when you die, I also want just under half of everything you have.
That's right.
We're getting taxed like 7 times.
That's
so
just
if we wanted to make a realistic argument, I could get down with property taxes if we weren't already fucked.
I totally agree.
Like 7 other ways.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. The amount of I mean, it is money. It's not money. Money laundering is the best analogy because it's not laundering because you're not hiding it, but the number of times your money has been confiscated throughout its lifetime to get to you is you can't even put a cap on it.
And we're using the banking system and home ownership, and we're going a lot of real round ways to get into the shorting and into GameStop.
Yeah, let's do that now.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think right before we do that, the big elephant in the room, I think we'll both agree on quickly, is that maybe if there wasn't a Federal Reserve that gave these banks ridiculously giant loans at a 1% interest rate or a 0.1% interest rate,
correct?
Who then and then what's a reasonable? I haven't looked lately. In this state? What's a reasonable interest rate for a mortgage?
Well, they're super low now.
Yeah.
A reasonable interest rate is like 3.5.
3.5.
Yeah.
So they're making over a 300% profit.
Yeah. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And they get these giant loans whenever they need them. So maybe if that didn't exist,
I know. Correct.
Like then they get so much money for such a low rate, and then when they fuck up, they get bailed out.
Correct.
And I think that's a good transition to the GameStop thing.
It is. Yeah. So go over GameStop.
Okay, so GameStop essentially back in April or May, people on Wall Street Bets on Reddit started noticing that a lot of the major institutions on Wall Street were buying up GameStop shares.
Oh, is that? I didn't know that.
Well, I didn't know that either, but this is how it was kind of explained to me in something that I was listening to the other day. So they noticed it, and they didn't know that they were planning a short or whatever it was.
Sure.
But they said this is odd because we're in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah, this is odd.
GameStop
is a shit stock.
Yeah, retail was already going down. GameStop are always in shopping malls. Normally, malls are down. GameStop was way down.
Yeah.
I was a really big gamer for a long time, and I still play a decent amount now, but not as much.
Sure.
With work and stuff. But I'm still in the culture, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And no one who's into video games goes to GameStop.
Right.
Because you can get it for cheaper online.
Yep.
You can get it downloaded directly on your machine.
Yep.
Or you can go to other online retailers who have a better relationship with the gaming community.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Yep.
So GameStop, is known for you buy something for full price, they'll buy it back from you at a pittance.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You have old consoles, you sell them to them, they'll buy them at a pittance.
Right.
Being kind of dicks with their return policies.
Yeah, they're big and corporate and shit.
Yeah, big giant corporate entity charging moms tons of money for the wrong product or overcharging kids for shitty stuff, whatever. The point is they're not like well thought of
yeah.
by the gaming community or the internet community as a whole.
Yeah.
Which, along with the downturn in retail in the last 10 or 15 years, has really killed them. So the stock price back then, this is in I think May of 2020.
Yeah.
Was like $20 or $30, very low. And people on Wall Street Bets noticed they started buying it. So fast forward now to January 2021.
Yep.
I don't know the exact timeline of it, but all of this has been happening in that 6-month period, 8-month period, whatever. Wall Street Bets figured out that a bunch of hedge funds on Wall Street, which are billion-dollar funds that typically do high-risk investment strategies, and also coincidentally aren't held by the same SEC reporting requirements.
I don't know about that, but yeah.
So they're not required to be as transparent. Without getting into too many specifics, they're not required to be as transparent about their transactions, their funding, and a few other aspects as other brokerage firms would be.
Like a Vanguard or something.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So these hedge funds were planning to short GameStop, which is essentially you borrow a stock, you sell it immediately, and then you bet on the price going down.
Yeah.
You buy it at a lower price, you pocket the difference, and you give the person back their stock, right?
Right.
So they were going to short GameStop. These hedge funds were into it for several $1 billion. One was the main one was Melvin Capital.
Melvin Capital, yep.
Wall Street Bets, which is a forum on Reddit, found out about this. Biz, which is a 4chan website dedicated to business and investing, also found out. But the majority of the credit all goes to Wall Street Bets. They did it all, and they said buy it. They said buy the GameStop stock.
Yeah.
They said buy it, and we're going to fuck over Wall Street.
With the intention of fucking over Wall Street.
Well, yes. Yes. Well, here's where it's tricky, because I'm trying to say all this with the knowledge that on the back end of this conversation, we're going to talk about how the government's going to come in and try to regulate.
Got it.
Right?
Yeah.
So you got to be careful about how you frame this.
Okay.
Because the government is going to try to frame this in a way that leads to more regulation and less retail investor efficacy.
Power.
Right?
Power. Yeah.
You could say that the main thing was we're going to fuck over these hedge funds, make them lose a bunch of money, which it has turned into, right? The memes and stuff have definitely turned into that. But like someone making a meme on Twitter with an anime avatar doesn't necessarily constitute someone who's making a trade, even though they might say they did, right?
Oh, definitely.
So
yeah, there's a ton of that going on.
So you could also make a lot of money doing this.
Sure.
Theoretically.
Yeah.
If you're going to fuck over the short sellers and they have to rebuy the stock, you can make a ton of money by driving the price up.
Absolutely.
If you buy in at $50,
you bought at 50 and
now it's 400.
Correct.
Like you can, if you bought 20,000 shares, you're a millionaire.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
maybe not that. I'm not doing the exact math there, but whatever.
You're making plenty of money.
Yeah, you're making plenty of money.
Yeah.
So they bought the stock. This was 4 days ago it started?
Yeah, like Tuesday or something.
Yeah, Tuesday. Whenever we had that snowstorm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tuesday. The price went up to like $250, $350. Now it's at like $400. Melvin Capital is totally fucked because they have to cover the losses.
It's so crazy. It's like $70 billion.
$70 billion.
It's funny because I typed
$70 billion.
I typed that out once and I was like, "Is that right?" And they're like,
"No,
that's right."
And essentially, a bunch of idiots on the internet. And I mean that endearingly.
Yeah. Right.
A bunch of idiots on the internet figured out how to beat Wall Street at their own game.
Yeah.
And outbet them. Wall Street bet the stock price would go down. Wall Street Bets and all the other people on the internet. The internet said, no, the stock price is going to go up because we're buying it and we're holding it.
Yes, right.
It turned into a viral movement with people like Elon Musk and Dave Portnoy, who runs Barstool, jumping onto it and saying, buy the stock. It went from more than just GameStop. It went to Nokia phones.
Yes,
AMC movies. A movie company which hasn't had anyone in the theater in over a year.
I know, right. Yeah.
And then briefly they played around with Naked Juice too, but
I saw that
kind of fell off, I think. But now also Dogecoin, which is a cryptocurrency.
Okay. Yes,
based off the Doge meme. That one exploded too. That one went from like less than a cent to like 0.8.
Yeah.
It was like 0.01 and it went up to 0.8 cents.
Yeah.
Like 800% increase. And it has almost morphed into like a populist retail investor movement against these hedge funds. The losses for the hedge funds are at $70 billion. Melvin Capital is run by some guy. I forget his name right now, but he was the protege of the guy who runs Citadel, Steve Cohen. Right. And Melvin Capital got like I think their lot. It's 2.5 and 4. So
I think Kevin Griffin is Citadel. Stephen Cohen is 0.72.
0.72.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yes.
Well, Melvin
Steve
Capital,
Cohen bailed out Melvin Capital.
Yes, Melvin Capital couldn't cover their losses.
Citadel owns, well, not owns, but is
they're the reinsurer.
Yeah,
they're the financial backer and reinsurer. So a lot brokerages often purchase reinsurance from a larger brokerage.
Yeah,
which is just like your health insurance. You pay a fee, and then if it happens where you have losses that exceed your assets,
stop loss.
Yeah, then they pay it.
Yeah.
So Steve Cohen bailed out Melvin Capital.
Correct.
Melvin Capital's done. But now Citadel and Point72 are stuck with the bill.
Yes.
And it's over $70 billion. They might not be able to pay.
Yeah.
Like, because I feel like a lot of people, like regular people, don't understand that, like, you know, every company carries a degree of debt. And
totally.
that factors into your balance sheet.
Yes.
When you say, like, this is a multi-billion-dollar hedge fund, and people say, oh, they made $100 billion that year. Well, how much debt do they have?
Exactly.
Do they have $50 billion in debt? Because if they do, they can't pay this $70 billion.
And how much of it is tied up in non-liquid stock price?
Exactly.
You know,
I highly doubt even half of it's
liquid. Like Jeff Bezos can't go to an ATM and withdraw.
No. This is how. This is where the kernels.
That's
of
also
truth,
why it's funny money.
Yeah. This is where the kernels of truth come in, and like, these people don't pay taxes. Yeah, because they're using the financial instruments that are legally available to them to pay lower tax rates.
Correct.
And like not meet certain reporting requirements. And like if you have a problem with that, you should hold the government accountable.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes. Correct.
But like economics is hard.
It is.
Right? Finance is hard.
Right?
I'm probably butchering a number of these details right now. Anyways,
I don't think you're butchering any of them. Yeah. There's probably more. Yeah.
It's more intricate. But anyways, so Citadel and Point72 were stuck with the bill from Melvin Capital, and I believe they are reinsured by BlackRock.
That's probably.
So, which is along with Vanguard, the biggest brokerage firm in the U.S., if not the world. Right. So Citadel, Point72, and BlackRock are titans of Wall Street. Absolute titans.
Right.
And what we saw on the first day of this happening.
And Citadel, so Robinhood sells all their data to Citadel.
Correct.
So that's
I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Yeah.
So people pump up GameStop, they pump up AMC, they pump up Nokia, and within a day, the machine has activated.
Nokia's funny too.
Yeah,
right? All of it's hilarious.
It's all trash.
It's so funny.
So within a day, the machine has revved up to cover Wall Street. Right. CNN wrote an article saying how Trumpism is to blame for the GameStop stock population.
Discord took them off because it's a white supremacist.
Yep, Discord took down Wall Street Bets, I believe, on Wednesday because of hate speech.
Correct.
They even said it has nothing to do with the stock pumping. It has nothing to do with them fucking over hedge funds.
This is why it ties to Ruby Ridge.
There are people who are trying right now. Now they are in like Dr. Shiva territory, where they're like crazy, smart, internet autistic people that like do mathematical and like technical analysis.
Yeah.
And like they're way smarter than I am, but they're also kind of kooky.
Yes.
And they're saying that they're finding evidence of hate speech bots.
Right.
That within the last couple of days, that on Reddit and on Discord, a shitload of bots got activated whose entire purpose is to push hate speech.
Absolutely.
In order to kind of generate sentiment for these kinds of bannings and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's the
which
psyop
makes sense
stuff.
If you understand a basic amount of technology and counterintelligence.
Yeah.
Right. And then so you had CNBC had people on TV all day talking about how this is crying, targeting wealthy people. For the first 24 hours, the corporate press came to bat for Wall Street.
Oh, completely.
And people pushed back. Dave Portnoy pushed back. Elon Musk pushed back. Mark Cuban pushed back. That
Shariyapa Paranaya guy.
Shalom Paranaya.
He was awesome, though.
He was great. All these people are pushing back.
Yeah.
And Wall Street Bets is pushing back. 4chan is pushing back. Now Twitter is on the game. The left and the right populists have united to pump these stocks up and to make these hedge funds lose.
Yes.
Robinhood on the second day.
Yeah.
Halted. I believe it was the second day.
That sounds right. Yep.
The market closed on the first night. It was a Tuesday night, and then on Wednesday morning, Robinhood opened restricting the purchase of AMC, GameStop, Nokia, and Naked.
Correct.
So if you were one of the people online who wanted to stick it to the hedge fund, or just make money on a new meme stock,
or just participate
in the free and open market,
exactly,
you were not allowed to buy these stocks.
Right.
But you were allowed to sell them.
Yes.
Which means that the guys who have staked their entire billion-dollar hedge funds on being able to drive down the price of the stock are able to do what they want, but you're not.
But you're not. Yes.
You're not.
Exactly.
And this is when people started diving into Robinhood and finding out that Robinhood's market maker, who provides liquidity and access to markets, is Citadel.
Well, it's the only way. So you're not charged for trades on Robinhood.
No.
The way Robinhood makes money is by selling the data to Citadel.
Yeah. So Robinhood sells your data based on what trades people are doing, which is then used by the hedge funds to make these kinds of giant shorting bets and other bets, not just shorts, lots of different investment strategies.
Sure, right.
I
don't have any problem with that business model.
No, I mean,
that's how it goes.
I do.
Oh, you do?
I believe we need something like Europe has to protect user data, right?
Oh, so fair enough.
It's the G something. Europe has a, and I don't like many of these EU style laws, but this is one that is uniquely situated to privacy and corporate accountability, which is you don't often see that out of European politics.
No, certainly not.
But you do see the corporate accountability sometimes. That's neither here nor there. The point is they have laws to protect people selling your data without giving you a piece of the money or telling you about it. Social media companies need to conduct themselves differently in how they sell data for European citizens. I don't like the idea that these companies are making billions of dollars selling our data and we get nothing.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't really like that Robinhood's doing that. More importantly...
Well, I just understand it as a business.
I understand it as a business. You make lots of money. Not only are they selling your data, but their market maker is Citadel.
Correct.
So without Citadel...
there is no Robinhood.
There is no Robinhood. They don't have the liquidity necessary to facilitate these trades without Citadel.
Correct.
So if Citadel is stuck with the bill and they can't pay, Robinhood shuts down. Now, when they halted this on Wednesday morning, the owner of Robinhood knew...
Yeah, that's the Vlad whatever.
Vlad Tenev.
Something.
I think his last name is Tenev.
Yeah.
He knew that's the end of his platform.
Yeah.
He and his original ads, if you go back and look at the Robinhood tweets from 2016, it's all about giving the power to the investor.
Democratize
investing was their slogan. He knew his platform was done. So why did he do it? Why did he willingly throw away everything? And that's when people started looking into the connections between him and Citadel. There are rumors that the White House called him.
The White House press secretary's brother
works is the portfolio manager for Citadel. Wikipedia has scrubbed that from her entry. If you go on Jen Psaki's Wikipedia, and I have screenshots of this, it had her connections to her brother at Citadel. They scrubbed it and they locked it. So not even approved contributors can...
And that's not even like a deep person. That's the fucking press secretary.
What's her name? Yellen, the Treasury... Janet Yellen.
Oh, she's a horrific
the press
monster.
Secretary. Former Fed Reserve Chair. She got paid $800,000 in speaking fees by Citadel since she was the Federal Reserve Chair. They came out, the Biden administration, Jen Psaki, the press secretary, said, well, she's a brilliant economic mind, and she was a former Federal Reserve Chair, so it makes sense that they would give her speaking fees. Does not even address...
She's a monster.
...the conflict of interest.
Yeah, she's a monster.
Does not even address it. In fact, she says, well, we have the first woman... Treasury Secretary and a team of a lot of other good women. So I'm not going to address your concerns, and I'm not going to address the conflict of interest, and I'm not going to address the problem, but I am going to talk about how we have a woman Treasury Secretary,
we
have a gay Transportation Secretary, and you don't need to worry about any of the problems because all of the buzzwords that you like and all of the races and colors and sexualities you like are in charge.
This is
you don't need to really worry what's going on.
Totally. This is the identity politics as methodology to execute on power and corruption.
And I think Yellen's husband is connected to one of these hedge funds somehow as
there's
well.
no way he's not. I haven't heard that, but there's no way he's not.
So within 24 hours of retail investors, for once, instead of hedge funds playing with our money and making billions, retail investors played with their money and made money.
Correct.
And they shut it down.
Yes.
They shut it down.
And it wasn't just Robinhood, it was TD Ameritrade.
Yeah, TD Ameritrade got shut down.
E-Trade? Someone else. There was a handful who didn't.
Yep. Webull stayed up, which is more complicated from what I understand. Even Coinbase shut down a lot of their crypto trading.
Right.
They shut down their Dogecoin. They shut down a few of their other crypto trades. I didn't really know what was going on there. And so now we're at a point where millions of people, Wall Street Bets was at 2.5 million, it jumped to 3.5 million, now it's at 6 million subscribers. Those are people who have subscribed to the subreddit and have signed up for Reddit accounts. So you're probably looking at another 6 million lurkers. People who just use guest accounts that never comment, that never do the awards and all the other fucking lame bullshit that people on Reddit do, that literally just lurk on Wall Street Bets for investment tips, who are now on it too. You've seen these stock prices explode, and they're refusing to sell. And we've had multiple days in a row where Robinhood and Ameritrade have all continued to restrict the markets, and they're doing it right in your face.
Yeah.
Now there are rumors that the federal government is going to get involved by either bailing out the hedge funds, canceling the shorts, which would be disastrous.
Yes.
And then and a few other potential steps, and then regulating retail investment more strictly.
Yeah, I'm going to pause it for a second.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, the tough part is, who's right about application? So is the market, so like Robinhood's fucked.
Robinhood's fucked. They're done. Robinhood is not going to exist in a year.
So is that enough punishment?
No.
Or not enough, but here's the question. Does the mask unveiling and the proportionate market, quote unquote, response that will drive a company like Robinhood into the ground, is that enough? Or
no.
Okay.
They should go to jail. People need to go to jail.
Okay.
So one of the guys that pushed back on it, like I said, was Dave Portnoy.
Yes.
He went on Tucker.
Yeah.
Tucker Carlson, and he did a really good segment. They did like a 20-minute bit. Not all of it is Portnoy, only about half of it. But he says people need to go to jail.
Yeah.
This is like blatant market manipulation.
Yeah.
Right. So these guys made a bet.
Right.
They got found out.
And they lost. Right.
And now they don't want to pay. And they're crying foul.
Yeah.
And they're saying, you're manipulating markets.
Right.
You're manipulating markets. So
yeah.
It's a classic take of powerful people blaming you for what they're already doing.
Yes.
So these hedge funds have manipulating markets like, I forget the guy's name. He was one of the main guys behind the mortgage crisis, and he got a bunch of fines. He's the highest fined person in the history of the SEC.
Right.
Didn't do a minute of jail time.
Yeah.
Never got any charges.
Yeah.
He just got a bunch of fines that he paid. And he's still active, and he goes on CNBC all the time saying this stock is going to zero. He's the going to zero guy, right?
Right.
These hedge fund
managers.
Not
Jim Kramer.
I think it is.
Is it Jim Kramer?
I think it's Jim Kramer.
Okay, yeah.
I think it is Jim Kramer.
Okay, could be. Yeah.
These guys go on TV all the time, and they manipulate stock prices by going on and giving their financial opinions about things to try to drive these prices down, and they don't produce anything.
Right.
These aren't investors that. These aren't angel investors that take a bunch of money and they go to a failing company and they say, I want to invest this money for X percent, and then they make fucking defibrillators and shit like that.
Yeah.
That's not what these people do. These people bet they make money off of the suffering.
Yeah,
and
these
are
gamblers. Yeah, these are gamblers. They're not. Because there is a role in our financial institutions for loans. There's a role for This is not it.
They don't produce anything.
Yeah.
They don't finance anything.
Right.
They bet on companies failing, and then they take advantage of the financial instruments around that, and they do everything in their power to help these companies fail.
Yeah.
To push them towards the brink to make as much money as possible.
Right.
So they lost, and now they want Big Daddy government to step in and say all of these plebs who all got together on a Brazilian basket weaving forum and on Reddit who beat us at our own game, they're manipulating the markets because they're all getting together and deciding it's a pump and dump. Jordan Belfort, a convicted criminal, went on TV and he advocated for his unconvicted criminal friends. Right. He said this is a pump and dump scheme where a bunch of people get together. They find a worthless stock. They tell everyone, "Hey, buy it. We're going to drive the price up, and then we're going to sell it when it gets there." That is illegal.
Yeah, that's Wolf of Wall Street.
That's Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
However, that's exactly what these people do.
Yeah. Right.
They just do
that's what their business
legally.
model is. That's just what their business model is.
A pump and dump doesn't have to always go up.
They can
pump the price lower and then short sell it, which is what they were doing.
Yeah.
So these things are already legal, and manipulating these markets are legal when you do it with Citadel and Melvin Capital's algorithms and their actuaries.
Yes.
That's legal.
Right.
But you and your friends that you don't know and you've never met, all getting together on Reddit and saying, "Hey, I like this stock, buy it." That's market manipulation.
Yeah, there was some guy I forget there was another big example. Some hedge fund guy, goes on CNBC in April of 2020 talking about how hotel shares are fucked.
Mm-hmm. Congress got briefings at the beginning of coronavirus. Dianne Feinstein and a number of other senators all sold their hotel stocks.
Yes,
and a lot of them. I mean, I don't know what stocks they bought, but I imagine they shifted their portfolios around for coronavirus. We saw all sorts of stories, Republicans and Democrats, that dumped stocks.
Yes.
Before COVID.
Right.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
But people buying GameStop is not fine.
Exactly.
And you've got all these billionaires and all the blue check marks on Twitter saying, actually, it's a felony to tell people financial advice if you're not an advisor.
Right.
Or actually, you're committing a hate crime by doing this.
Yeah.
Actually, this is being co-opted by neo-Nazi groups that blame Jews for the financial system. So you're unwillingly participating in hate crimes.
Right.
And, this is going to be investigated, and the SEC is going to come after you. And to be perfectly honest, in the fucking clown world corrupt government we have, I expect a lot of these dudes who are on Wall Street Bets who made this happen.
Yeah.
Roaring Kitty was the one who was on Fox Business News.
Okay.
I think another one was Rapist Peter Griffin is another one.
Right.
Who have millions of dollars worth of GameStop stocks and have very vocally pumped this thing up.
Yeah.
They're probably going to get investigated.
I know.
And they're probably going to get fined.
That's Ruby Ridge.
And if while this is all going on, I think this is great because it's another example of normies waking up.
Yeah.
And I think it's all going to depend on if the Biden administration takes a public position, which they're not doing right now.
Right.
Because they have too many connections.
Because they're complicit.
He got more corporate money than any president in history.
Yeah.
Right?
That sounds right.
So they're complicit. So they're going to try as long as they can to not take a public stance.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
And then the SEC action. Because think about if these guys on Wall Street Bets all get hit with federal charges.
Yep.
And at the same time, the government bails out the hedge funds.
Right.
What's going to happen at these trials?
Yeah.
There's going to be chaos.
Absolutely.
There's going to be riots outside of these trials.
Absolutely.
I think that will be even closer to insurrection than the Capitol was.
Definitely.
Which we talked about. I don't think it was. They're saying it is. Insurrection's their new term.
It is.
They're calling this a financial insurrection.
I know.
They will actually knock down the doors of that courthouse.
Yeah.
And drag people out.
Right.
And it'll be like the last scene of Joker, where they fucking crash into the police car.
It's French Revolution, man. It's real French Revolution.
It's going to be really bad, and they've already turned on the machine for every intersectional culture war angle they can find.
Yes.
Just like they did it during Occupy Wall Street.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah,
They're finding every pressure release. AOC is acting as her designed role as a leftist pressure valve.
Yeah.
She came out against this. She was saying, we got to stand with the people. We got to stand against the hedge funds.
Yep.
This isn't right. They can't shut down trading. They're using all their rich friends. And then Ted Cruz agrees with her and retweets it.
Yep.
And she says, you tried to kill me 3 weeks ago. I'm not going to work with any of you Republicans, but I'm willing to work with reasonable Republicans. Well, you said last week that none of them are reasonable. They should all be kicked out of the Congress.
Right.
So she's doing her performative nonsense.
Yep.
And it's much easier.
Again, conservatives are tolerant.
Exactly. It's much easier to do her performative nonsense than it is to actually get any kind of change.
Right.
Now, since then, she kind of caught a bunch of heat for it, and she was part of the movement to actually get congressional hearings. So apparently they're going to have congressional hearings. Right now they're way more concerned with their vacation than anything like stimulus checks or healthcare or the stock market or generally any of the things that they should be doing. They're more concerned about going on TV and talking about how the plebs tried to kill them. Now Elizabeth Warren is the one to watch right now because she won't fucking go away.
I know.
And she's completely owned by the big money interests.
Absolutely.
Her faux progressive nonsense during the primaries didn't fool anybody. Right? And she's coming out and writing requests to the SEC for what they're doing to counter market manipulation. And she's saying that these Reddit communities are essentially illegally boosting stock prices. And she wants more regulations on retail investors.
On the oh my god. So I didn't know that much.
That's what she wants.
So this is, and I need to do more research on this because I'm stupidly tolerantly conservative. And I say, maybe this is Elizabeth Warren's moment where we can agree.
That is not her
and
moment.
She's talking about regulations on us.
Yes.
Not regulations on them.
She's talking about regulations on Robinhood and Robinhood-like third-party retail investment.
Oh my god, that's so crazy.
Apps and sites and stuff like that.
So crazy.
So none of the we'll see what happens if there are any congressional hearings, and we'll see what happens if the Biden administration makes a stance.
Right.
Neither of those things have happened yet. I don't find either of those things particularly likely. there's like so many possibilities of what could happen.
I know, yeah.
Like, I could, as corporate as he is, and one thing that I try to do with the Biden team, because, like, you know, although I know about all of his, you know, dirty money connections to Ukraine and China, and I know about all of his connections to, you know, real radical elements on the left, he's still like a milquetoast corporate neoliberal Democrat.
Correct.
And they don't like to do anything, just like the neocons don't like to do anything except war. They love to do
war.
Right?
Everything except war.
And I could see Biden his team saying, listen, we're bought and sold. Like, we're all connected to these people. They all gave us money.
Right.
We need to come out against this.
Yeah.
As a, like, sort of a, they need to placate the base.
Yeah,
Not the base.
I know.
Because the Biden base isn't the left base.
It is weird. Base. I know.
They need to placate the actual populist left. They need to placate, like, the eat the rich crowd. Because all of this, most of these people already knew Biden wasn't their guy. They voted for him anyway because they're stupid. Right? And they needed to get rid of the fascist dictator Trump. Right?
Yes.
But I think now a lot of those people this is like another slap in the face.
Yeah.
Like, these is not your guy. No. And this is not your guy. He's not going to help you. This is Wall Street's guy.
Yeah.
And I would not put it past the Biden people to just backstab all their Wall Street people real quick.
Right.
And say, listen, we're going to throw you under the bus. But we're going to give you a bailout.
But who cares? Just take it on the chin for 6 months and no one cares.
We're going to throw you under the bus.
Right.
And we're going to come out and make all these public statements. And hopefully that stops sorry, I keep spitting at you.
It's okay.
And hopefully that makes everyone shut up about Jen Psaki and Yellen's connections to these companies.
Yeah.
And then in 6 to 12 months, Congress will bail you out.
Yeah. Right.
Because I have no faith. I have less faith in Congress to hold these people accountable than the executive office.
Yeah.
Because, like, Biden holding them accountable, what does it really do? You're going to make a 44th executive order?
I know, it doesn't mean, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything.
Biden can't make an order to make them pay or to give them money.
Correct.
And like, Congress is just going to bail them out.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if Ted Cruz and AOC and Josh Hawley and Thomas Massey and Rand Paul and Rashida Tlaib and Ro Khanna. It doesn't matter if, like, the actual right wing and the actual left wing want to do anything about it. I don't see, like, Nancy Pelosi or Joe Manchin or Chuck Schumer or Jerry Nadler like doing anything about it other than latching onto the narrative of financial insurrection with white supremacists, domestic terrorists, decentralized finance, destabilizing markets, and putting people out of work. We're coming back from a pandemic.
Right.
You don't understand. If all these hedge funds go out of business, then all the funds that they control will go out of business, and that'll have trickle-down ripples for the rest of the economy. We can't do that. Too big to fail. Now, Melvin Capital isn't too big to fail.
No.
Right?
There's no such thing.
I agree. Well, for academic reasons, there's no such thing as too big to fail. They should have let them fail in 2008.
There's no such thing.
But they didn't. They said too big to fail, and they bailed them out. If we use their parameters for too big to fail, Citadel is the only one that, like, comes into that.
Right.
Like, the government's not going to bail out Melvin Capital for a measly $12.5 billion. Or whatever, because that's what their assets were valued at.
Yes.
From what I understand, they still needed the $4 billion.
They're Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But, like, Citadel, if they can't pay,
they're not Bank of America.
No. If they can't pay the $70 billion, that might be something the government will look at, because that's a lot more than $70 billion.
It is.
When you actually look at who they're backed by and how much leverage they have leverage at any given time.
Right.
So I don't know what's going to happen. I could see the Biden administration going either way.
Yeah.
I could see them having the corporate press run interference for them and deflecting and, punting it to culture war issues and kind of just kicking the can down the road until people get bored. I could also see them taking, like, a fake progressive stance with the understanding that Congress will just bail out the banks down the line. So it'd be interesting to see how if congressional hearings happen and if the Biden administration does anything.
What I am interested in, and I had a conversation with a kind of left of center buddy of mine, where I see the regulation as maybe appropriate, going the reverse way, so not on the retail investor, but on the hedge fund manipulators, is we need to, so we do not create, we should not create new regulatory laws around hedge funds and investing. What we should do is uphold existing contract law between a consumer and a and a seller that says, if I'm on Robinhood and I agree to participate in, in your if I'm a customer of yours, you have to hold up your end of the deal, because what I'm buying by being a customer of Robinhood is access to the market.
Yeah.
So you have to hold up your end of the deal.
Yeah. If you leverage your mortgage to get a loan and you don't pay it back, the government's not going to come help you.
Yeah, that's right.
They're just going to take the bank's just going to take your house.
Correct. Yeah,
There's no reason why these major financial institutions should be able to say, I made a poor financial decision.
Yes.
But it's not my fault.
Right.
It's all these other people who figured out what I was doing.
Right.
So now I need money.
Exactly.
And I don't just need regular money. I need taxpayer money.
Exactly.
So you're taking the profits of the people that beat them to pay off their losses. It doesn't make any sense.
And essentially what's happening, so here's the analogy. I'm paying my mortgage bill, but you take my house anyway. Yeah. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
I'm participating legally in Robinhood or TD Ameritrade or whomever.
Yeah.
But you're taking away my... So that's, to me, it's like we don't need a new SEC regulation that's not going to be followed and is only going to be leveraged by the powerful anyway.
Yes.
We need to protect the consumer with existing contract law.
Yes.
I am buying something that I've legally gone into an agreement between a buyer and a seller. Now, there's an argument that's going to be made that, well, they're just going to rewrite, the contract to say that, they can withhold your rights at any point. Yeah. But that's where you have existing, you can't sign I can't sign a legally binding contract that makes me a slave.
Right.
I cannot. Right. I cannot. I can't. Just because it's within a contract doesn't mean that it's legal or constitutional.
Yeah, it's like the guy in Germany that signed a contract with some dude to kill him and eat him.
Yeah, that's right.
And there was a big thing. It's like, he definitely wanted to do this, and he signed all these papers
Absolutely.
and said it was fine, but is it?
It's not.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's really not.
So this is where I come in and say, hey, just enforce it. This is kind of, what is it? The Chesterton's fence. So Chesterton's fence basically says, like, hey, there's it's usually on a left-right paradigm, but it's like the instincts of the conservative person when he comes upon when he's in a field and he comes upon a fence is, hey, this fence is probably here for a reason. I shouldn't just tear it down. And the left's is, well, we should probably tear it down. We should probably just tear it down because it's here. And we should, and then they say, oh shit, we need to build actually 2 fences. Yeah. Or we need to build a bigger fence. And my point from the Chesterton's fence example is, we should just ensure that the fence that exists works. Yeah. We're not going to, we don't need to build another one. We don't need to build another one. We don't need to tear it down.
Yeah. Use those resources to make sure the one fence works.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's my idea of
in terms of the market, that you have a positive and a negative side. Like on the positive side, you need to ensure that when people logged into Robinhood on Wednesday morning, the stocks weren't restricted.
Correct.
And I think that was kind of the domino that kicked a lot of the rest of this off. Is when the owner of Robinhood got his marching orders from Citadel or the White House or whoever told him to.
But they're the same thing.
Same thing. To restrict the stock trading to help all the rich fat cats on Wall Street. Yeah. That is where it goes from, should they just go out of business or should they go out of jail?
Yeah, right.
That's when he should go to jail.
Yes.
And all the people at all these hedge funds on TV should all go to jail.
Yeah.
Right? Anyone who had any part in restricting the sale of the stock. The purchase of the stock.
Yeah.
Should go to jail.
That's right.
Whether you filed the paperwork for the request, whether you made the phone call, whether you were in the back room between the Citadel guy, the Robinhood guy, and someone from the Biden team, you should all go to jail. Well, anyone who's involved in that process whatsoever, you should go to jail for market manipulation, for insider trading, for probably a litany of other crimes that will never happen.
If I drove up to a McDonald's. If I drove up to a McDonald's and I parked in the parking space and I walk out and I try to go in and someone runs in front of the door with a gun and says, you can't go in here, and if you do, I'll shoot you, that person goes to jail.
Yes.
That person...
But you can sell me your McDonald's.
Yeah, that's right.
If you have any McDonald's on you, you can sell me yours.
That's, it's just kind of a silly analogy, but it's like... It's not that silly. Because that's what happened. Yeah. It's similar to the. This is where it all goes back to big tech.
So they should have. Sorry, I just don't want to get.
No, it's okay.
If they had just let them keep buying the stock. And let them keep pumping the price, because there's no way that you could make a case if you're the SEC that all 6 million of these people were all conspiring together,
all criminals
for all the same reason, that it's a 6 million person criminal conspiracy to pump the stock. because everyone's saying,
is Amazon a conspiracy?
Yeah, is Tesla a conspiracy?
Yeah. Right.
And moreover,
I've actually heard that Tesla's a conspiracy.
Yes.
Which
and
is
moreover, the organizations that are complaining about market manipulation to the SEC, they do what Wall Street Bets does for a living.
Absolutely,
that's what they do for a living.
That's their job title. Right.
That would have been great. I think that from the positive perspective, you preserve your access to markets and you do not have unnecessary influence. But then on the negative side, you need to make sure that these hedge funds aren't manipulating markets and they aren't violating SEC regulations, which is harder to figure out because they're not held to the same reporting requirements. Right? They're not held to the same level of scrutiny as like a regular brokerage is. Right? So you don't necessarily need to institute new regulations for them. But you need to make sure they're following the ones we have right now, which in a lot of instances they're not.
Exactly.
Correct. And you know, if a guy in Florida refuses to use the phone and he sweeps his room for bugs every day, and then he sits down and has a conversation with somebody, you're never going to catch that guy. Right. But like you might catch Jim Cramer, who goes on television every other week and says this stock is going to zero.
Exactly.
And he goes and he does 4 different shows, manipulating markets because he's a financial professional. And he goes on 4 different news stations and says that this stock is going to go down on 4 different shows, and then in 6 months his firm shorts the stock.
Well, it's also funny that you mentioned I I've at various points I am a Barstool guy. I'm a Portnoy guy. A lot of it is kind of how I feel about like the Rogan sphere, as you mentioned. It's like it's mostly not for me, and it's kind of lame, and it's very bro-ish, which I'm not in love with. But whatever. And also, it goes back to kind of O'Sullivan's Law, which I talked about, which is they become very liberal. They become, they're just another liberal, millennial-run company. That's not edgy. The perception of them being edgy is about what they talked about and did 12 years ago, not about what they did.
Sometimes saying mean words on the internet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and they've ceased to, outside of Portnoy, they've ceased to do that for a long time. So, but anyway.
They wear funny suits and do fake press conferences.
Yeah, it's not that, right. But I always come back around to it because it's endearing in a lot of ways. And there's some nostalgia to it and whatever. But I like Portnoy.
You a big Call Me Daddy fan?
That
Call her daddy.
No, oh God, it's no, man.
Be sluts, kids.
No, I know.
Suck dick.
Yeah, I'm really not.
Take it in the ass.
I know, it's brutal. I can't listen to, and that
Sex and the City was a manual.
That Valley Girl uptalk thing, I actually can't listen to.
Yeah.
It's like nails on a chalkboard.
Men are wrong for liking women with less sexual partners.
Yeah, right.
Watch Call Her Daddy.
I hate all this. Yeah. Anyway. It's
do
funny
you like
because
makeup on your pillow?
Yeah,
they do.
Yeah, it's brutal. So the thing that I do like is, and if you were following, which you may or may not have, is so Portnoy did that during the pandemic and at the beginning. I even hate saying pandemic. It sounds so fucking lame. But anyway, during whatever it is we fucking somehow agreed to, did this day trader thing.
Oh yeah,
right?
I heard about
this.
That.
Is what he was doing. And it was kind of a lampoon of Jim Cramer. Yeah. And he would do stuff like he would just take Scrabble tiles and pick 3 out and be like, okay, let's go buy these. Yep. And it was fun and it was funny. And he got inquiries and was and he has he had to do this fucking disclaimer at the bottom of his tweets and whatever, but he's good. But why I like him was he was basically fuck, he's had this fuck you instinct. Why can't I do it, but you do it all the time? Yeah. The whole time. Yes. And he's like, I'm this new, I'm the new rich merchant class. Yeah. That, the Pope and the Vatican are saying, and the Crown are saying, hey, this is this upstart new money merchant class. We need to use the power of the Crown to destroy. Yeah. So he's been doing this this is the perfect Portnoy new rich moment to kind of calcify this instinct in a very transparent way, because he's been doing this day trader. Back in June, it's he's picking out Scrabble numbers or whatever. He's he could have very well had said okay, here we go, Nokia, sounds good, man, let's go get it. And so again, he's kind of been this face of this populist movement the whole time. That's basically said, and he goes on Tucker and he goes, and he's yeah, man, this is. So, and it's perfect because so the other side of it is what Barstool really has become now, because they were bought by Penn National, is they're a gaming platform. Yeah. This is gambling. And he's oh shit, the stock market is just gambling.
Yes.
All this is just gambling.
Yes.
This is not not.
Actually, Ben Shapiro said it's not just gambling.
Yeah.
It's actually a very good industry.
Yeah,
right. Gives
a
lot of money to Israel, so it's actually very important.
It's so here's I don't want to get into this side because we're on a roll, and again, 51,
we'll keep going.
51 to 49. It's like, well, I do care that the stock market matters because I do have investments, and a
lot of people have 401ks.
Yeah. Like I did also coincidentally max out both of our IRAs at the beginning of the year. I'm relying on that, so I don't want it to all go away. But having said that, it's
still had pensions. You wouldn't need that shit.
That's true. I hear you. Well, but pensions are only pensions, not because of the cash value that the. But anyway, it's so perfectly poetic that like Dave Portnoy is one of the major faces of this phenomena because he kind of sniffed it. Not that he's clairvoyant, but he's been doing it for like a gaming company that is forward facing as like a silly goofball entertainment gambling entity has been using the stock market for content for a year now.
Yep, and then this happens.
Yep, and the nice thing is that he's been consistent about it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? He's like, this is I do a Sunday funny parody gambling picks show. And then I do Davey Day Trader on Monday, and there's no difference.
Yeah.
Same show. Like that's it. Right, it's the same show, and it's like that's perfect. Like that's so perfect. So, anyway, that's where.
Yeah, but I think that's where we're at now. Is a bunch of autistic idiots on the internet figured out how to beat Wall Street at their own game, and now they're crying to the government to bail them out, and they cried to the government and they cried to their friends in the corporate press, and they already got a degree of interference with restricting the stock to sell only.
Yes.
But I think it's ultimately I'm more white-pilled on it than black-pilled because it's showing.
Oh, good. Okay.
It's showing normies.
That's new.
Yeah, it's very new. Yes. It's showing normies that like this is about class.
Yeah.
It's not about
left, right.
And it's not about like
it's definitely not about race.
Right. It's not about race. It's not about gender. It's not about sex. This is about like the rich people, the elites.
Yeah.
Don't want you to get yours.
Yeah.
They don't want you to get yours, and they are going to use every avenue possible to spin the narrative and crush populist finance.
Yeah. Right.
And that's like a powerful message.
Yes.
For people to digest.
Right.
And I don't see a way where 6 months from now, retail investing or the stock market look the same.
Yeah.
For better or for worse.
Right.
And if it's for worse, I think that like really increases the chance of people pulling out of this system.
Yeah.
Whether peacefully or violently.
Yeah.
Like whether it's like storming the courthouse of rapist Peter Griffin's SEC trial.
Yes. Right. Right.
Or like, just like dumping all their money into crypto and building a cabin in the woods.
Yeah.
With like 6 of their friends.
Right.
And I think either of those examples are better than what's currently happening.
It is, absolutely. Yeah. You want to end there?
Yeah.
All right, nice. That was a fucking awesome episode.
Yeah, that was great.
Good job.